little piffle.
Hello Britain. Let's talk Europe. 200,000 British businesses, just 4% trade with the EU, and yet 100% must comply with their literally countless regulations. This endless red tape kills innovation, with compliance costing us billions each month. To contrast, when we trade with the USA and China, we sensibly apply their regulations only to the things they buy, not to our entire domestic economy. Post-Brexit, the EU may well put up barriers to trade. However, by leaving the world's only stagnant trade bloc, we'll be free to increase trade with the rest of the growing and prosperous world. And besides, considering our huge imports from German industries and our £8 billion trade deficit, with the Eurozone in crisis and increasing bailouts needed just to prop it up, keeping these trade barriers low is very much in Europe's interest. Many countries far smaller than Britain have negotiated global trade deals worth trillions, and we could too. The EU's trade agreements in comparison are crap, even if we include their internal markets. Being in the EU is in fact the very best way to stifle international trade. As a member of the EU, of the 7.4 billion people on the earth, it's nearly impossible for 93% of them to have any chance of coming to Britain because the 6% who are European have open access. This is a xenophobic little Europe attitude and is simply not right. We're turning away the world's best and brightest because the EU currently force us to accept unlimited migration from countries with stagnant economies and up to 50% youth unemployment. It's no wonder that much of Britain is upset. Our immigration policy is absurd. If we leave the EU, Britain can have equal borders where we sensibly welcome people equally for who they are and not simply the colour of their passport. So the EU today is a bit of a mess, but where is it going and can it be reformed? To understand that, we need to know where it came from. After World War I, many rich and powerful Europeans wanted to create a United States of Europe, and in 1926 2,000 of them met in Vienna to work out how they might do it. 5 years later, long before World War II, a British civil servant named Arthur Salter published a collection of papers entitled The United States of Europe that bizarrely argued the national governments of Europe should be made mere local authorities of a new federal state, and national identities erased. However, the craziest part of Salter's vision was that the central power of this new state should be held by an unelected and unaccountable secretariat, who would rule Europe without any democratic mandate from the people. Salter believed that they alone should ultimately control Europe. It's interesting to see just how similar the unique structure of Salter's 1931 United States of Europe is to the EU of today. They are exactly the same, and the man who made this happen was Salter's friend, the charismatic federalist Jean Monnet. World War II came and went. Monnet then made two significant attempts to kickstart federalism, but both failed. His breakthrough came in 1950 when the USA gave France an ultimatum. France had been demanding control of German coal and steel industries, a move bitterly opposed by both Britain and the US. In 1950, France was finally given only 2 months to propose a reasonable compromise, or else the Allies would impose a solution on all parties. Monnet spent these months drafting a memorandum, and with only 1 week remaining, he presented it to the desperate French Foreign Minister, Robert Schuman. Renamed the Schuman Plan, it was broadcast across Europe on May 9, 1950, declaring a supranational coal and steel community would be created as the foundation for a future United States of Europe. Consequently, the heavy industries of 6 European nations came under the control of the unelected and unaccountable, aptly named High Authority, and Monnet had planted the seed of a federal Europe. 5 years later, the Treaties of Rome expanded the coal and steel community to become the EEC, and the High Authority was renamed as the friendlier sounding European Commission. In 1973, our government took Britain into the EEC, and 2 years later 67% of us voted to remain in it, largely because our government promised us that it would only ever be a common market, never a political union. In 1992, political union was announced. What a shock. The Treaty of Maastricht increased the power and jurisdiction of the EEC and renamed it the European Union, so after 61 years Salter's vision was almost complete. In 2004, the European Union attempted to seal the deal by introducing a constitution for Europe, which would finally bind the member states under its federal jurisdiction, permanently. If enacted, the countries of Europe, including Britain, would, legally speaking, cease to exist, and a new country under the authority of the European Commission would take their place. The United States of Europe would have been founded. Thankfully though, in most countries only through a referendum of the people can a state relinquish sovereignty, and in 2005 the people of Europe said no. Following this setback, Angela Merkel quietly conspired with other federalists to repackage the rejected constitution using different terminology without changing the legal substance of the text so as to avoid referendums, and in 2009 the Treaty of Lisbon was ratified. The incremental federalisation of Europe was complete, except for one final thing. Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty allows states to withdraw from the Union. The final step in founding the United States of Europe will be to amend the treaties and remove Article 50, which won't require a referendum. With that done, the Commission and its court will be the rulers of our laws. It's an open secret in Brussels that the European Union is to have a single currency, a single body of law, and a single military. If nothing is done, it will become a single country, as has been the intention since the 1920s. A vote to remain is a vote to become the 28th state of this fledgling empire and accepting everything that comes with it, and promises to the contrary are simply PR. This June is likely the last time the people of Britain will be consulted on membership. If we choose to give up our sovereignty now, there will likely be no getting it back. This is not about trade, this is not about travel, and this is certainly not about the economy. Know what you're voting for. This is about the future of a sovereign Britain and whether or not we as individuals value our freedom. If you still intend to vote Remain, before June 23rd, please take a moment to watch these excellent videos to get a fuller understanding of what's actually at stake here, and perhaps read this book for a complete history of the EU if there's time.